Mansfield today, at the beginning of a brand new and freshly washed week in Gauteng. You're welcome to it. It's brought to you by Capital Legacy, your number one provider of wills and estate administration. As usual on a Monday, we look at things business, and the person who guides us through that particular minefield is Chris Gibbons. Chris, crisis in the trucking industry. On the go. What's going on here? Do we know?
Good morning, Jeremy. Yep, two elements to this story, I think, both of which can be attributed to poor performance by elements of government. You'll be aware that road transport, haulage, is critical to the country's economic survival, and that's especially true given the very poor performance of Transnet. Well, the first part of the story relates to the Maputo Corridor, severe congestion at the Lebombo-Ressano Garcia border post. South African Association of Freight Forwarders and the Minerals Council of South Africa say congestion is costing trucking companies as much as 1.3 billion rand per year. They complain that it can take as long as 3 days to get through the border, and not only are there no facilities of any kind for the drivers, but their vaccination certificates are expiring as they wait in these long queues. And that queue of trucks between Lebombo and Komatipoort, often between 7 and 15 kilometers long, if you can believe that. And the key problem, according to a joint statement from the two entities, a lack of a 24-hour, one-stop border post with round-the-clock operations.
What sort of goods are being carried here, Chris?
It's a mix, Jeremy, of general cargo and minerals, but the minerals have increased recently because companies are moving away from Richards Bay, and they're opting for Maputo purely because of the high levels of crime on the rail line into Richards Bay. So between 800 and 1,200 trucks are going through the border to Maputo every day, depending on the market pricing cycle. At government level, it was agreed to sort this all out. We signed an agreement with Mozambique as far back as 2007. 2007. Since when, as you might guess, nothing has been done.
Okay, and the second leg of the crisis?
Well, this unfolded on Friday of last week, as I'm sure you're aware, when the truckers themselves blockaded the N3 by shutting down Van Rieren's Pass. There was violence, there was looting, and the South African Road Freight Association says the police simply stood on the sidelines monitoring the situation. I don't know how true that statement is. Business Day is reporting this morning that a number of arrests have been made and the ringleaders will be charged with economic sabotage. Nonetheless, Gavin Kelly, CEO of the Road Freight Association, says we're fast losing any respect as a safe, efficient and desirable route for the movement of goods out of and into Africa, and even in and around South Africa itself. I must say, it really does feel at times as though the performance in critical areas of government is just getting worse and worse.
Well, someone has just been given the boot, and that's in the form of Prasa's Group CEO, Zolani Matthews, I beg your pardon. What's that all about?
Well, that is a very good question. The suggestion is that someone somewhere, either in the Ministry of Transport or in the ANC, woke up to the fact that Matthews might not have been the most sensible of appointments in the first place. To begin with, he was 64 years old when appointed. Prasa's retirement age is 63. Also, no experience at all in the minor matter of running a railway. But no problem there. He's ANC royalty, you see. Grandson of Z.K. Matthews, ANC icon, son of Joe Matthews, brother of current International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor. But he also has, shall we say, a checkered past in the United States relating to his involvement with Carol Moseley Braun. Braun was the first African-American woman elected to the US Senate, later became US ambassador to New Zealand. Matthews was her campaign manager, and they were also romantically involved. Now, if you Google Carol Moseley Braun and Kgosi Matthews, he used an abbreviation of his second name, Kgosi Tsile, at this time, you'll find all manner of allegations about campaign debts, IRS investigations, claims of campaign staff not being paid, and so on and so forth. None of this apparently mattered to the Prasa board, nor to Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula when they appointed him. No, the issue is that he didn't tell them he also held a British passport and therefore had dual citizenship. As a result, the State Security Agency would not give him any kind of security clearance, so out he had to go. It's doubly curious because along the way, Matthews has also been chairman of the Ports Regulator, a councillor at ICASA, a senior manager at Arms Corps, and a director of the Post Office. No problems with dual citizenship in any of those jobs. All very strange. Net effect, Prasa still does not have a permanent group CEO.
Someone who has bounced back is former Reserve Bank Governor Daniel Minnelli.
Yep, Minnelli has just been appointed chairman-elect at least, at Alexander Forbes, bringing what we hope is a happy ending to a saga that began when he left the Reserve Bank in the middle of 2019. There was a period of gardening leave, and then Minnelli, if you recall, was announced the new CEO of ABSA following the departure of Maria Ramos. All well and good, but no sooner had he taken the reins than he announced his resignation. And all of this, again, apparently as a result of a difference with the ABSA board over strategy. No further details, but plenty of strong rumors about ABSA's largely male, largely white top management getting in Minnelli's way. I have no doubt that history will not repeat itself, and he will do well at Alexander Forbes.
Okay, Chris, this is where the entire show could become a bit of a dog show, because your guest today is also a Chris. So just to make it easier, instead of me asking a question saying, "And what do you think, Chris?" and both of you starting to answer, I'm going to pass the rugby ball to you and let you introduce your guest, and you get on with your chat so that I don't have to interfere.
Good one. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm sure we're all going to look back on this year for a variety of different reasons. Omicron, markets recovering, and so on. But for me, it was the year that I first became aware of something called green hydrogen. Probably something to do with the COP26 in Glasgow. And I know that we've been using hydrogen fuel cells for some time, but green hydrogen? Apparently, South Africa is well positioned, or at least we could be, to be a major player in the green hydrogen industry. So I thought, let's end the year by getting our facts straight and finding out what exactly green hydrogen is, how we use it, how it might benefit us in the future. And our guest is an expert in the field of energy. I'm sure you've heard him commenting or analyzing the goings-on at Eskom on numerous occasions. He's managing director at EE Business Intelligence. Welcome, Chris Yelland. Chris, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. Let me start with a very simple question for you. What is green hydrogen?
Yeah, Chris, in the past, hydrogen has been produced by from coal, or it's been produced from natural gas. But green hydrogen is when hydrogen is produced by electrolyzing water and separating water into oxygen and hydrogen, and it uses electricity from renewable energy, which makes the entire production and burning of hydrogen completely carbon free. So that is what green hydrogen is. It's hydrogen produced from renewable energy, hydrolyzing water and burning it in a carbon free way.
So can we then use this green hydrogen to generate electricity or to store electricity? What do we do with it?
Yeah, look, one can use it, for the production of electricity, and it is used for the production of electricity through what is known as fuel cells. So a fuel cell takes hydrogen in as a fuel, and it produces electricity. Again, it's completely green electricity because it doesn't emit any carbon. But hydrogen can be used in a wide range of processes. So, one of the major processes is the transportation industry. So things like operating trucks, large heavy-duty trucks, buses, taxis, vehicles of all kinds, trains, and other vehicles, not necessarily from hydrogen itself, but from hydrogen derivatives, such as green ammonia and other hydrogen derivatives, which can be used as fuel for ships as well as for aircraft. Other uses, by the way, industrial uses include any kind of heating application where one would previously either burn coal or burn methane gas, that's natural gas for the production of heat, such as in the steel industry. You can, instead of producing steel by using coal as a heat source, you can use hydrogen, and that produces so-called green steel. Other production items could be ammonia, green ammonia, and green fertilizer, all using hydrogen derivatives in a carbon-free way.
It sounds, Chris, as though it's something of a miracle product, but is it a big enough miracle to solve Eskom's problems?
The production of electricity directly from hydrogen is not necessarily the way to go. It is cheaper to produce electricity directly from the sun and directly from the wind. In other words, not indirectly, where you use the sun and the wind to produce hydrogen, and then you use hydrogen to produce electricity. The efficiency of that process is less than if you were to produce electricity directly from the wind and the sun. However, hydrogen can be used as a storage mechanism. It stores energy. And in this regard, it's quite useful. It stores energy, can then produce electricity, as I mentioned, through a fuel cell, or in fact, from burning in a gas engine. But primarily, there are better ways of producing electricity, more efficient ways of producing electricity than indirectly from hydrogen. So I think we've got to look to what we call industries that are carbon emitting and that are hard to abate in the normal course of events. And as I say, this is transportation. In other words, replacing fuels such as diesel and petrol and oil with green fuels produced by hydrogen, or green derivatives produced by hydrogen. So, for example, in the shipping industry, they use bunker oil as the sort of fuel to drive ships around the world. This can easily and ideally be replaced by green ammonia, which it can be stored in liquid form, gasified, and used to operate and run ships around the world. Ultimately, it's all about the economics. The technology is there, but in order for this to become really pervasive, one has got to drive the price down, and that comes from huge economies of scale. And certainly in Europe, in Japan, in Korea, there is a growing demand for green hydrogen and its derivatives to replace carbon fuels, fossil fuels. And this demand is growing so rapidly that one's expecting that the price will be driven down to become economically viable in the future.
Chris, can I just butt in here against what I was going to say? It clearly makes sense from a sort of saving of the planet, climate change perspective, doesn't it?
The goals of Europe and Japan and Korea are driven by climate change demands, the need to decarbonize the economy. And hydrogen over the next 20, 30 years is seen as a massively growing alternative to carbon and fossil fuel-based fuels, which of course are unsustainable, through to green hydrogen, which not only is green and renewable, but it's also sustainable. So if you look at the whole cycle, you take water. It can be brackish water or seawater. You hydrolyze it to separate out the hydrogen. You use it in one form or another, and in so doing, it converts back to water vapor. That water vapor enters the atmosphere. Eventually, it comes down as rain, and it's a cyclical process. So it's a true circular economy that is 100% renewable. The energy source ultimately is the wind and the sun.
Chris Yellen, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Chris Yellen is the Managing Director of EE Business Intelligence. Chris, thank you very much for your time here on Mansfield today and for your insight into that particular area of your expertise. We're going to have to leave you with that as well and say goodbye to Chris Gibbons. He'll be back with us next year, his first show on the 10th of January next year. In the meantime, we'll be playing out some of the reviews of some of the fascinating books that he has been looking at over the past year, and also some of the aspects of business that he has been addressing. Don't also forget that come Thursday on the travel show, we're going to be speaking to Ross Falk from MSC Cruises, because from next week onwards, while we're off on holiday at Mansfield today, from next week onwards for a month, nearly, yeah, it is a month actually, we're going to be running a marvelous subscription prize where just by subscribing to the Mansfield Today YouTube channel, you could win a trip for four people, courtesy of MSC Cruises. From all of us here, thank you for joining us, and a reminder once again that the business section brought to you by Capital Legacy, your #1 provider of wills and estate administration. Excuse my hiccups, it's a Monday morning. These things happen. Bye-bye.